So you're trying to find a job in Denmark, and it's not going well. You've sent out application after application, your CV has been Danskified beyond recognition, and you're starting to wonder if you need to change your name to Jens so that you can even get a response email. Yeah, I've been there, and you're right, it sucks. But I'm here to tell you that you're not crazy, you're not alone, and no, you shouldn't give up. In this video, I'll share the things that I've experienced and learned about looking for a job in Denmark. And if you're new here, my name is Derek. I moved to Denmark in 2017, and my channel is full of videos on Danish culture, life in Denmark, and how to adjust to it as an international. So let's have a quick reality check. Why does finding a job in Denmark suck? Well, finding a job in Denmark as a foreigner is one of the most humbling experiences that you can imagine. You arrive with your qualifications, your experience, and your carefully curated LinkedIn profile, and then nothing. Crickets. You get rejections, ghosting, or the classic line, "We've hired someone who's a better culture fit." Translation, we hired a guy called Jens. But before you waste your time crying over your master's degree in urban planning from Arizona State University, even Danes have trouble with job hunting. They heavily rely on their networks, and in most countries, the job search process is similar. You go to a large database of job ads to do a search by job title or industry, or scan for things that you're qualified for, and then start applying. Now, you can do that in Denmark as well on sites like Job Index and workindenmark.dk, and I'll put those links in the video description. But if you need proof, a recent study from Statistics Denmark found that 1/3 of people between age 15 and 64 got their last job by applying to an ad. But here's something you may not expect, and it makes the job search process a little different than where you come from. Just as many people got hired through personal connections, half through ads, half through who you know. So that's the first part of this job search process where things get tricky for internationals like us, because compared to a Dane, you don't know anyone. And that can be a little harder to change than in other countries. But don't worry, I have some advice on what you can do and how you may even have some advantages. But first, let's talk about some other numbers. Now, if half of all job seekers in Denmark found their jobs through networking, we should look at what's different for internationals. So when foreign nationals in Denmark were asked how they got their current job, the results show a little bit of a difference and perhaps even an opportunity. 50% of internationals got their jobs by applying to job adverts either before or after moving to Denmark. So on the surface, that's not surprising because we usually don't arrive here with a ready-made network of Danes who can vouch for us, people who can help us find our next opportunity. Only 31% landed a job through a personal network. That's significantly lower than Danes. And again, it makes sense. If you just moved here, your network probably only consists of your Danish teacher at Sprog School, the barista at Espresso House who knows that you prefer oat milk, and the guy at the Kommune who helped you register for your CPR card. But meanwhile, 7% of internationals got hired through an internal promotion of the company that they were already working for, so probably a transfer, or 9% were headhunted. So is there a lesson here? I tend to think so. I think internationals have a huge opportunity to get in there and network their way to their next job opportunity, just like Danish friends and neighbors have been doing for so long. But why is networking so important? Now, if you've watched other videos on this channel, the answer may seem familiar, because in Denmark, trust is a big deal. I've said that many times, and not in the corporate buzzword way, but in a very real and human way. Employers want to know somebody who knows you. This is what nobody really puts in a job ad, but it's what they mean when you hear questions like, is this person going to be a good culture fit? So where can you gain that trust? Now, it often comes from being seen over time and fitting in. Now, this means that you should be going to events, and not just networking business events, but expanding your network in an authentic way. You have to be bold. Get involved in communities, make connections. That's how networks are built here. Slowly, quietly, organically, and do it because you want to build connections where you give as much as you get from that connection. Now, this is also going to sound like something that can't exist at the same time, but you also don't want to be aggressively networking. What I mean is that people will be turned off if you're a little bit too aggressive. Show up and do things naturally. Let people know that you're looking for a job, because it can be natural to let somebody know that you're looking for a job and that is part of your adjustment in Denmark. But don't go too strong. But here's why you shouldn't give up. And trust me, things get better. Don't be discouraged. And know that to land an opportunity, you often need to work harder, longer, and smarter than your local counterparts. And not because you're less qualified, but because you're less visible. Still, you're somebody who took a chance to move to a new country, and that's interesting. That's powerful, and it's something that sets you apart and makes an impression on the people that you are going to meet. So how do you start meeting those people and making those impressions? Here's my advice: coffee. Yeah, your oat milk latte at Espresso House. Ask the people that you're meeting organically if you can grab a coffee with them. Be smart about it and find people in similar fields or ones that you're interested in learning more about, and schedule a coffee meeting with these new people you're meeting. Danes love those. It's a chance to build trust, and even if it doesn't directly turn into a job lead, there may be one in the future. You can even reach out to people electronically via LinkedIn and suggest a virtual meeting. Be bold. That's what you have to do to get a job here. And you can do the same with job ads. Don't just blindly apply, but follow up with people at the company if you can see who they are. You can look on LinkedIn and see if you have a connection with somebody who works at that company. And I know it may seem a little bit creepy, but let me remind you of that time that you asked your friend to spy on your ex's Instagram. That didn't help you find a job, but this will. So say yes to weird events and awkward social stuff. Your next boss might be standing next to you at that kitten cafe or that Mean Girls themed pub quiz. It doesn't matter. Just do it. Now, Denmark has what's called a flex security model. It's basically a fancy way of saying that it's really easy for companies to hire and fire employees. And that sounds scary at first, but it can also be to your advantage because the job market moves fast. People leave all the time. Teams change. Openings pop up constantly. So just because a company isn't hiring this month doesn't mean that they won't be hiring next month. And when somebody's favorite colleague suddenly gives notice, they get a little sad, but then they start scanning their brain for somebody that they recently met. Somebody who seemed smart, motivated, and totally fetch. That person might be you if you're out there invisible. And here's something else that surprised me, but I wish somebody told me when I first moved here. This could be a perfect time to reinvent yourself. A little bit or a lot. The job that you had back home might not exist here in the same way, or the market might be saturated. But the good news is that Danes are actually really open to people trying new things and giving them a chance. It's not uncommon to completely pivot industries or completely pivot roles. In fact, hiring managers here often care more about whether you're a good culture fit than whether or not you have the skills ticked off neatly into a checklist. I've had hiring managers straight up tell me that they picked me because of my personality, not because I had the perfect CV. And that was wild to hear at first, not what I was used to coming from the US. Because why would you value vibes over skills? But commonly, you don't need to be able to do everything on paper, you just need to be somebody that they can imagine working with. The attitude I commonly hear is, I can teach you the job functions, but I can't teach you how to fit into our office culture. Once again, I think we can take that all back to being a matter of trust. You'll have more questions in an interview about what you did on the weekend rather than quizzing you to make sure that you have the necessary skills to do the job. Because the hiring manager can look at your CV for information about that. They're going to trust that you put accurately what you did before, and they don't need to test you on it. They're more concerned about how you'll fit in. So yes, finding a job in Denmark is hard, and yes, it sometimes feels like you'd have a much easier time if your name was Jens or Stina, but every person who landed a job here as a foreigner, well, they started exactly where you are, frustrated, tired, wondering if they'd ever figure it out, but don't give up. Be patient, be persistent, be bold, and remember, half the jobs here are filled through people, and you're a person. So eventually one of those people will become your connection. I talked a lot about making connections in this video and the importance of socializing in Denmark, and that will mean that eventually socializing with Danes will help you with this topic, to find somebody to help you get a job. And if you want to learn more about socializing with Danes, you can watch this video right here. Who knows, it may bring you a connection to your next job or at least your next oat milk latte. Thanks for watching today. Hi.